Paste. Yeah, big clappies. And now we've got a video by Waffle, who is behind the Online Safety Act. It's probably not who I'm thinking of, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
The title of this video is very stupid.
It was actually that video that got me to buy the game way back then. Based. Hello, Chief. Welcome, welcome.
Obviously, the UK government are in charge of the Online Safety Act.
Bro, the UK government is so paused. How did the mighty empire fall so far down that you now... This is basically what you guys have been reduced to. What happened? Where did you guys go wrong?
But it turns out they're not. In today's video, we're going to go through...
The British aren't behind it? I wonder who?
An absolute mountain of information. But after seeing a recent video from a...
Is that GamerSubs down there?
Fellow creator, Ali McForever, I could not believe what I was hearing.
Sorry,
and more to the point, it all turns out to be true. To start off with, we need to talk about Carnegie UK. Now, going back to the early 1900s, Carnegie were a foundation or a trust set up to manage the money of Andrew Carnegie. Now, if you don't know who...
He was a Scottish-American businessman who became one of the richest Americans of all time, chiefly through his involvement in the steel industry. Towards the end of his life, Carnegie gave away the vast majority of his fortune and encouraged others to do the same with their personal wealth. Okay, okay. Can someone pull up the early life history of Andrew? I'm a little bit curious.
Who Andrew Carnegie is. Basically, follow the money of the early 1900s criminals, and you find him stood right next to Rockefeller. Now,
of course, the Rockefellers. It always goes back to them, doesn't? No gooning, not yet at least caught. Alright, alright. Andrew Carnegie in the 19th century, robber barons have lessons for today's oligarchs about the responsibilities of wealth.
Andrew Carnegie and people like Rockefeller, they created trusts as a way to funnel their money tax-free into various political motives and, of course, business interests. To this day, trusts are still used.
By putting a property or assets to a trust, you'll no longer own them, and they cannot form part of your estate. This means there will be no inheritable tax payable.
As a way of tax exemption for many different people and businesses. But at the moment, one of the main people at Carnegie UK is William Perrin. He was actually one of the original founders of Ofcom. You can see where this is
Does anybody know what Ofcom is? Never heard of them before.
going. Now, the Online Safety Act that we're all currently living under in the UK is basically a set of rules that they've laid out for different website providers to have to adhere to. So website providers must do age verification checks, and also there's some various clauses to adhere to. So website providers must do age verification checks. And
okay, so this was recently. It was like 2 years ago. Ofcom published an updated roadmap setting expectations for blah blah blah. So Ofcom is leading the work to implement this Act's provisions. Okay. Also needs to make secondary registration. Okay. Interesting, interesting.
And also there's some various clauses in there where if a website...
Platforms have a clear responsibility to prevent children from bypassing safety regulations. This includes blocking content that promotes VPNs, other workarounds, specific users. Hot take, guys. It should not be the internet's responsibility or any sort of website or platform to essentially, put up the bowling alley guardrails for kids. That is strictly the parents' responsibility. This is not, in any formal capacity, going to solve this issue. The only way to solve that issue is to make parenting great again.
Website provider is seen to be promoting a VPN, for example. That is a
the 1960s, and its consequences for society and the core family unit at large have been disastrous.
Direct conflict of interest with the Online Safety Act. And basically, what I'm trying to get at, there's a whole list of rules that have been written down which companies have to obey and us as internet users have to adhere to. And when it comes to the basic policies of the Online Safety Act, we have Lorna Woods. She's
I recognize that graying pattern. Somebody pull up the early life history.
University professor, and she basically did a lot of the legwork in laying out the legislation of the Online Safety Act.
Of course. Karens and boomers every
Now,
time.
the UK government do not have the staff nor manpower to come up with laws and legislation all by themselves. So they actually offshoot this to freelancers, people that are intellectuals or people that work at universities, to come up with policies, studies, and information to help shape the lawmaking in the country. Now, for the most part, I wouldn't disagree with this if they allowed us to vote in the laws.
Good point.
One of the core fundamentals of the government system that we currently have in place in the UK is that we can vote in governments, but when it comes to actually making the laws, they're pretty closed meetings that the general public don't really have a say in. And
I'm not sure how to feel about that. I feel like the public should be able to vote on any law that gets implemented, but there should probably be some standards of who can vote in things like this. But as to what standard that is, well, we can just approach that hurdle as it comes.
as we've seen from the backlash from the Online Safety Act, even petitioning against certain laws,
Parliament considers all petitions that get more than 100,000 signatures for debate. Almost 500,000.
appears to make absolutely zero difference. Well, Carnegie UK have had a habit and a history with funding different university professors and government advisors that appeal to an agenda for the trust, i.e., funding people that can benefit their business. If you're not putting the pieces together yet, Lorna Woods worked for the UK government to devise a policy funded by Carnegie UK. They're
Oh, damn. It's all connected.
all connected. Now, in the case
Yeah, he says it as I say it.
of the Online Safety Act, Carnegie UK set out a core set of issues.
Hey, what's up, Butch? We're busy talking about the Online Safety Act. How you doing, man?
They wanted to understand the harms of the internet, and they basically created an investigation to try and understand what can be done to help make the internet safer. The problem is when trying to find the answer to a question, it's very important to understand that you're asking the right question.
Online and safety in the same word? Well, phrase, but yeah.
For example, if I asked you, how do we keep our children safe online?
My answer? Good parenting. That is and should only be the method used. And it is the only good method that you can ever use. Everything else will end up falling into a situation where it gets abused by corporations and governments for censorship, for controlling who gets access to platforms, for deplatforming people who go against, the current narrative or the agenda, silencing, censorship, you name it. It's all about control. Yeah, I meant phrase, give me a break, I'm at work. Sorry, my apologies.
Because parents don't exist, and for some reason you can't set up child locks on this, and for some reason you're not able to block content through your internet router. If they're the questions you're asking, then you're very likely to very easily come to the conclusion of online censorship.
Told you, mass censorship.
Especially if that's the answer you were looking for from the beginning. And this is what Carnegie UK actually do. They fund studies that financially benefit them, and we'll get to that. Bear with. They're in with all of these government advisors, all of these freelancers that help write legislation
I'll have to do it tomorrow.
And law for the UK government, and they back them financially to complete studies that tend to spit out the results they're looking for.
Oh, jeez. Imagine that. Why a DM you? You don't need to DM me. We've got a community reaction submission channel in the Discord. You can just pop it right there. We have a whole channel dedicated to this. But if you do want to pop in the DM, it's whatever. What was I saying? I forgot. Let me go back.
They back them financially.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I've seen this many times where companies will specifically fund research and studies that will only benefit themselves.
To complete studies that tend to spit out the results they're looking for. If Carnegie want one set of laws to be instituted, then they'll fund the people that can give them those results. Now, I'm not saying...
And it's not just done with companies, the product itself. This is done also even in the scientific community. And anything that goes against the narrative of certain controlled things, it gets tossed out or it gets defunded.
Saying that Lorna Woods, the legal professor, was bought off in any way, but I'm saying that she was probably selectively chosen because she'll give them the answer they want. And yes, we will get to why age verification was the answer that they wanted. After the investigation and the experiments have been done, Carnegie then used their own resources and money to write up a legislation and kind of a rough outline of what the law would entail to then go and present this to members of parliament. This saves the government a ton of money, saves the government a bunch of time, and Carnegie have the resources to get some big names and big corporations to approve.
Sub channel wasn't visible to me by default, but I sent it there. Oh, the submission channel. Oh, okay, there we go. Also, it's not to be confused with the stream suggestions channel. It's the one below that, which is the community, stream reaction submissions.
With this act. So when the MP goes and presents it to Parliament, it already looks like some of the
Yeah,
biggest
you're right,
corporations in the UK are
awesome,
backing
man.
it.
Thanks.
Now there's one piece of information that I've missed out, and this is the big one. But before we go into that, if you're looking to browse the internet safely,
oh no, it's another ad.
securely, and be able to access content that
is it VPN?
maybe the government say that you aren't allowed to access, like the news, make sure you check out the link down below for private internet access. Get 4 months free, 86% off. It works on all your devices and it helps support this channel. Thank you. Now back to the video. The other side to Carnegie, which we haven't really touched on yet, is the thing that I mentioned at the very start. They're a trust. So in the US, they manage over $5 billion of assets. Yes, billion. That's with a B. And in the UK, they have been backers and investors through shell companies of many different new startup tech companies. This has been the case as far as records go on tech companies to the early 2000s, but we also know that they invest with banks directly, alongside other micro investments through other offshoots and investment firms. Now, as soon as I saw this bit of information, that raised a red flag for a video that I'm currently working on. I'm currently working on a video investigating Yoti. They're the main organization that the government has entrusted to manage the data checks for the UK population. Now,
okay, this is the first time I'm hearing about Yoti. Then again, I know nothing about the Parliament or the stuff that happens over in the UK. I just know everything sucks.
When Parliament were doing their research to figure out whether they should introduce the Online Safety Act, of course they consulted many businesses that currently do age verification, whether that's from face scans or companies that can handle passport data. They, of course, reached out to loads of different companies. And one of the companies they reached out to was Yoti. And in the Parliament committee notes, Yoti
oh, what do we have there? The Carnegie Trust.
Directly reference the Carnegie Trust as a constructively critical friend. Now, during my research into Yoti and the various people involved and the various MPs that they're friends with on social media, yes, I wanted to look into their investment because the truth is, you follow the money, you find some answers.
And I know exactly who the money always leads to.
Now, this bit isn't definitive proof, but I'm fairly sure that if we look into it, you'll find the answers you're looking for. Yoti's biggest investors into the business were HSBC and Lloyds Bank. But also there was multiple private investment funding rounds that are linked as being backing from trusts. Now, we aren't able to access that information. That information was redacted from their financial reports. So yeah, now there's no proof that Carnegie's money directly went into Yoti, but we know that there's hundreds of millions of dollars that have gone through both Carnegie in the US and the UK into various tech companies. And yes, that's specifically tech companies, online tech, digital tech companies. I think if we follow the paper trail, you'll see some of that money has probably gone to companies that are doing facial ID checks.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Problem with trusts is that they're relatively private. It's private money from lineage. One thing that I do know is that Andrew Carnegie will be turning in his grave at the thought of his money being used to censor people. Before he died, Andrew Carnegie actually gave his money to over 3,000 libraries because he wanted the world to have access to information and be able to educate themselves based on what's happening in the world.
Wow, he seems like a pretty nice guy. But how foolish was he to give his money for all of that? Now it's just being used to censor people.
And the whole history of human knowledge. The Online Safety Act takes that away from people. So the question is now is who's going to do the legwork and who's going to do the investigation? Well, this is where I need your help. I'm fairly confident that if we follow the money, we'll know exactly where this legislation came from. We know it came from Carnegie, but we just need to prove.
Oh no, what have you done? No, 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 no! Oh man. I need to make that 100,000, not 10,000, this is too much. Okay, he redeemed it, we gotta put it up. Oh no. Saddies? Oh man, it's big saddies. Copy. Paste. Done. There we go. He redeemed it, boys. He redeemed it.
Prove a motive. If there's a paper trail that show that Carnegie and their trust fund directly benefit from this new legislation, that can get the legislation tossed out. Now, when it comes to legislation in the UK, if it's found that someone has benefited by presenting false information or managed to gain something financially from a legislation coming into effect, that legislation can be overturned.
I wonder how many times it's happened where someone has financially benefited from any sort of legislation and it's been completely swept underneath the rug.
In the case of this, I don't think there's any MPs directly that would benefit from this that we know of. Maybe we'll find out something in the paper trail. But if we investigate Carnegie UK and we find that their money goes directly into the companies doing these passport and facial recognition checks, that shows that they definitely had a reason to get this legislation passed that wasn't for the benefit of the people, it was for the benefit of the trust fund.
I hate it when organizations and companies lobby for stuff like this. It's almost always bad.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you go and check out
It's almost
private
always
internet
people with
access,
self-interest
and I'll
or
see you
interested
all
people.
in the next video.
Good video, by the way. I'm keen to see where the money trail goes. Hopefully he'll make an update to this video as we get more information about this. But anyways, let me thank you guys a video. That was good.